Video games used to be much simpler. I know it sounds like the musings of an out-of-touch geezer, but I do not mean it with any negative implications. It is a fact. Games were less complicated in the early days, whether it was due to technical limitations or the fact the medium was still in its infancy. Not many titles had tutorials, and almost all were pick-up-and-play games. Now, it can be seen as a selling point if you can play a game without much explanation. On the outside, Relic Hunters Zero Remix feels like a callback to those days. It is an experience without much need of an explanation or dialogue. Pick up the controller and start experiencing it for yourself. That's what I did. Hi, this is Derek Wright from Nintendad, and this is our review for Relic Hunters Zero Remix for the Nintendo Switch. Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, on the asteroid dungeon Nemesis, legendary relics of power lay dormant, ready to be plucked by steadfast adventurers. The Relic Hunters of the starship Spaceheart set out to claim these mystical trinkets. Sadly, they were not alone, as a malevolent Duke Duncan also sought the power that the relics offer. With this army of ducks, he will stop at nothing to find the power hidden away on Nemesis. From the get-go, the story in Relic Hunters seems quite goofy and fun. An army of evil villains and ducks, led by the ominous Dukan, are out for galactic domination. If this sounds like the plot of a movie from Mystery Science Theater 3000, you would not be far off. The story is not a heavy affair and only matters as a placement for the game to exist. Aside from the beginning bit of narrative, the story isn't the real focus of the title. It's the gameplay. Relic Hunters is a twin-stick shooter with light RPG and roguelike elements. The controls are simple enough. The left analog stick controls the character's movement, while the right stick handles aiming. Firing your weapons is as simple as pulling the right trigger or in tandem with the left trigger, allowing you to aim with more precision. Grenades are handled with the L button when available. Lastly, you can easily switch between your two weapons with X, reload with Y, dash or sprint with B, and melee with A. I found dashing to be a bit complicated to do with everything else going on in-game. It could be due to the nature of the twin-stick design, having to take your hand off the stick to dash and then back again. It became manageable, but felt a bit odd at times. The title is jam-packed full of content between adventure, storm, endless, and daily challenges. Adventure mode is the perfect place to start as it serves as the true beginning of the game. It is broken up between 12 stages that get increasingly more challenging. To ease the burden a bit, any items purchased in the shop become selectable in the main ship hub for future playthroughs. This means that you can start the next time with more bombs, ammo, bigger guns, and even relics. Guns are scattered through each level, usually smaller ones to begin with, and more potent ones in the latter stages. Enemies will also drop them along with ammo and bounty. Bounty is like cash you get for defeating enemies and having high kill streaks. Finally comes relics, which must either be purchased or dug up in the levels. This occurs occasionally after each stage. You'll be given a prompt to search for treasure, and easy-to-follow arrows point you towards your loot. After either completing adventure mode or purchasing it with bounty, endless mode becomes available. It functions like an adventure, but without the progress being saved for future runs. Here the challenge ramps up more, with stipulations being applied ever so often. Enemies will get more help, pickups will be more limited, and so on. After completing the final stage, the game begins again, but with stronger enemies and different placements. As the game tells you itself, this is the meat of the game. Finally, you can also play Storm and daily challenges. Storm pits you against waves of enemies in a survival mode style challenge. Daily challenges are preset single player only challenges in which you try to get the highest score to rank on the leaderboards. Multiplayer is such an essential piece of Relic Hunters. Almost every mode is playable with a second player. Take Endless Mode for example. When you reach the loop section, the game's difficulty drastically explodes. If you're playing it by yourself, this can be quite challenging. Now if you're playing with a friend, they can help you shoulder the burden. I say burden because some of the characters are a bit more difficult to play in a single player setting. Pinky and Bew are two examples of these challenging characters due to their unique weapons. Pinky uses gauntlets that are amazing for up close and personal melee attacks, while Bew uses a shield that can reflect most enemy projectiles. Both characters are quite viable for the game, but they are more technical and challenging. Therefore, when paired with a well-rounded character like Jimmy or Red, they become easier to play because the aggro is split. With Pinky, this is perfect because she can weave in and out of battle with her melee attacks, while another player can draw the enemy fire away. The same can be said with Bew's shield, who will negate 99% of enemy fire. While he is running in and out, gaining the attention of the enemy, another character can safely pick off the rest of the enemies. When first experiencing Relic Hunters, it is easy to look at the graphics and think this could be a game aimed at a younger audience. While the design is cutesy, it hides a challenging game underneath. I believe this style of pixelized sprites will pull in both a young audience and an older audience which craves that old school look. The characters themselves animate well, and their movements are satisfying whether they are dashing around shooting guns or digging for buried treasure. The soundtrack features plenty of peppy chiptune songs, which become more serious and tense as the game moves deeper into the asteroid. While with its funky vibes, the track for the first world feels like it could have been a B-side for a Sonic game. My main complaint with the music is that it didn't stand out enough. The track sometimes just felt like background music, nothing more. With that said, it was still enjoyable, but it probably won't be something I'll be humming a month from now. Despite the massive amount of content held within Relic Hunters, I found this game suffers from massive slowdown when there are large amounts of enemies on screen. I first noticed it when using the character Red and I was fighting the boss of the adventure mode. I had thrown 2 grenades, which will unleash his minions. These 2 groups, with the added hordes of the Duke and Commander, led the switch to a crawl. I thought this was only going to occur in handheld mode, but it was also present in docked mode. When playing multiplayer using Red after unleashing more minions, I noticed a slowdown as well. It was not to the same extent, but it was noticeable. Sadly, this was not the only bug that I encountered in my time with Relic Hunters. I was playing Endless mode with my wife, and we had just reached the last shot before the final stage in our first loop. When we went to upgrade our weapons, the game suddenly crashed without warning. It is possible that it was a one-time event or a perfect storm of conditions, as I had used the shop many times with no errors. Either way, this left a sour taste in my mouth, as there was no way to truly regain our progress except to play it over. Relic Hunters Zero Remix really is a full package when it comes to retro throwback looter shooters. It is jam-packed with modes, characters, and ample amounts of weapons. While it does have some technical issues, they are not enough to damage the overall enjoyment factor, and what are games if they aren't fun? Relic Hunters Zero is a perfect title for anyone that can pick up a controller, and while some of the hecticness might be a bit much for younger gamers, it really is great for the whole family. We at Nintendad give it a 4 out of 5.